Well, good morning. It's good to be with you on this Wednesday morning as we continue together in our daily reflections as we're looking this week at different things as Gospels tell us happened after Easter Sunday. So let's look today. I actually preached from Matthew 28 Sunday. So we're going to look today at Matthew 28. We're going to look at verses 11 through 15. This is right following the Easter story as in Matthew's Gospel. So let's look at Matthew 28, 11 through 15. And this is what it says. While they were going, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priest everything that had happened. After the priests had assembled with the elders, they devised a plan to give a large sum of money to the soldiers, telling them, "You must say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were sleeping. If this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story is still told among the Jews to this day. So this is, verses 1 through 10 tell us the story of resurrection, where Jesus was raised, and he tells the women to go preach to the apostles and tell them what's happening. He meets them. Do not be afraid. Go into my brothers, so on and so forth. And as the women were leaving to go to the apostles, the soldiers, the ones who earlier were dead, verse 4 says, "For fear of him, the guards, him being the angel, the guards shook and became like dead men." So now the guards are awake. They're now kind of back at it. And so as they have left, as they were leaving, as they were going, that would be the women. The guard went to the city and told the chief priest everything that had happened. So now the chief priests are like, "Well, here's some money. Just tell folks that they came and took his body. So we're just going to tell the story." And there we are. And so I think there are so many little interesting stories post Easter that we don't really talk a lot about. I think probably the two Easter stories, post Easter stories that get mentioned the most are Doubting Thomas. I'll be preaching on Doubting Thomas this coming Sunday at St. Matthew's. It's one of my favorite stories in Scripture. I think Thomas gets a bum rap. Um, there's a lot happening in the Doubting Thomas story that I think our guy Thomas gets a bum rap. And so that's one story we talk a lot about. And then you have the Emmaus encounter where the disciples are walking to Emmaus and Jesus appears on the road to them, and we have that story. So those are the two that really get the most attention. We talked just about Mark's longer ending and what's happening there. But this is interesting in Matthew's gospel that we see that these guards are bought off to tell a story that is not true. And that's interesting to me. And not so much it's interesting from a resurrection perspective because, it's part of the Easter story, but I think this story asks some questions of us regarding our integrity. What is what is your integrity worth? You know? What what is the value of your integrity? What is the value of your word? What is the value of your soul? Um, what did Jesus say? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? Um, what what is your soul worth? We see here these guards were aware of the resurrection. They lived through it. They saw the angel. They witnessed all this. They were front row spectators to what's happening on Easter. And then the religious leaders say, "Well, how about for a little money we pretend like that ain't what happened?" And they go along with it. They have protection. The chief priests protect them from the Roman leaders, and they get a nice little payday, and they get to go along their way. Peace that is a lie is not peace. It isn't. And these soldiers thought they were avoiding the eye of, I almost said the eye of Sauron. Got Lord of the Rings in my brain at all times. They thought they would be avoiding the eye of Rome. They thought they would be avoiding the attention of the governor. and staying out of harm's way and staying out of trouble. But in the end, they sold their integrity, didn't they? There's a lot of integrity being sold in this part of the story, isn't there? You have Judas for 30 pieces of silver. You have these soldiers. We don't know how much, but it was a large sum of money. Um, all willing to exchange the truth for a nice profit. And I think that it's something for us to sit with as well. Because for what will we exchange our integrity? For what will we sell our soul? For what will we be willing to compromise on what we know to be true? And I think we need to always be pondering that and making sure that we are not, and it's not always, honestly, it's not always money. In fact, I would say very rarely is it money that we're willing to compromise our integrity over. You know, we're all teenagers, and all of life is the middle school cafeteria. Our great temptation for compromise of integrity might not be money, it might be peer pressure. It might be what do others think of me? It might be, you know, popularity is not just something teenagers struggle with and won't, but it's something we all want to be liked, don't we? You know, we all want someone to approve of us. We all want to be thought highly of. That's human nature. Um, and we know it's true. I think of something Kierkegaard said one time. I love Kierkegaard. If you don't know Kierkegaard, Soren Kierkegaard was I think 17th century, maybe 18th century Danish philosopher. He was one of the first existentialist philosophers, one of the main ones. And he pushed back on a lot of the cultural Christianity of his day. And I think I think our cultural context always matters. And for those of us in the Deep South, where even though it's not like it used to be, Christianity is still kind of the norm. It's very easy for us to mouth the words of Christ without actually living them. It's very easy for us to be culturally Christian. Going to church on Easter Sunday, things like that. It's very easy for us to just go along with what everyone says our faith is without actually digging deep into Scripture, without actually digging deep into faith. It's very easy for us just to go along like everybody else and mouth Christianity without actually living Christianity. And Kierkegaard's line was, the hardest thing is to be a Christian in Christendom. I've always thought about that a lot. I've always kind of summarized it this way. When everybody's a Christian, nobody has to act like one. And sometimes in cultural Christianity, when everybody acts Christian, it's kind of hard to walk the path of Christ. It's a great line song by Rich Mullins, hard. It's hard to turn the other cheek. It's hard to bless when others curse you. Or it's hard to be a man of peace. It's hard to be like Jesus. Being a peacemaker is hard. Being meek is hard. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness is hard. The gospel's hard, friends. It's not complicated, it's just hard. These guards exchanged their integrity for a vast sum of money. How about us? What will we be tempted to exchange our integrity for? It probably won't be a vast sum of money, but it may be the applause of others or the approval of others. Where it's all of life remains a middle school cafeteria, friends. And following the gospel is always hard, no matter where it is. I think Kierkegaard said the hardest thing throughout every age is to follow Jesus. So Let's follow Jesus today, friends, even if it calls us to a hard place. Hey, thanks for being with us today. We'll look tomorrow at another account of post-resurrection Jesus. Have a great day. See you.